This year's Shriners High School Football Classic pits two coaches with unbeaten winning streaks against each other. I'm the North head coach, Bob DeFelice, with 33 straight wins.
And I'm South head coach Tom Lamb with 23 straight wins and 2 Super Bowl titles.
On June 23rd, 44 All-Stars from the North squad will face Tom's team in a contest that will decide whose winning streak will end.
Whether it's Bob's or mine, it's for a great cause. The children at Shriners Hospitals treated free of charge thanks to fundraisers like this game.
Join us and help make these children winners.
The 6th Annual Shriners High School Football Classic, Saturday, June 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at Boston College Alumni Stadium. Call 665-6466 for more information. Strong legs run so weak legs can walk.
I'm Doug Flutie at BC, here to talk about children at Shrine Hospitals. 88 All-Stars, including my brother Darren, are playing so that these youngsters can win.
The 6th Annual Shriners High School Football Classic will make it possible for patients to be treated free of charge. Right, Bill?
Right. I'm Bill, the first Flutie to play in the Shriners Classic. We hope to see you Saturday, June 23rd, 6:30 p.m. at Alumni Stadium.
Call 665-6466.
Hi, I'm Ramona Stowagon, football queen for the 6th Annual Shriners High School Football Classic. And I'll be here at BC on June 23rd to cheer on the North and South teams.
I'm Dick Norris, potentate of Aleppo Temple, and Ramona is just one of the youngsters that these All-Stars will be playing for. Patients at the Shriners Hospital for crippled and burned children, who are treated free of charge, thanks to the fundraisers like the Football Classic. Will you help by joining us June 23rd at 6:30?
There are over 900,000 of them in North America. They have mysterious titles like Imperial Potentate, Grand Master, Nobleman, and they're heavy into rituals.
Most Reverend James McDaniel, Grand Master of Tennessee.
But let's not forget the hat. It's called a fez. They're seldom seen without it. So who are these 50,000 Shriners who've taken over Boston this week?
First of all, it's a fraternal organization.
He may be a doctor, he may be an electrician.
Oh, we have fun, as you can see.
There you are, buddy. Smile. You'll be on television.
Okay, hey! Yeah, I'd say they're having some fun. And they're a big hit at parades.
But the Shriners are not all pomp and ceremony and fun and games. Quite the opposite. It is, in fact, one of the largest philanthropies in North America. Case in point, the Shriners Burns Institute, right here in Boston.
Where's your flag?
It is one of the foremost burn centers in the nation, funded entirely by the men in the fez hats. And this is only one of 3. Add to that 19 children's hospitals across the nation, and you can get an idea of how much good this fraternal organization has done for children.
Your activities have raised nearly $900 million in support of these fine hospitals, including the Burns Institute here in Boston. And for that, you should be very, very proud.
And they are. So, we'll ask the question again. What is a Shriner?
A Shriner is a fellow that is trying to help children.
We do these things because we want to.
Philanthropy, yes. Yes.
And in the process of that, we have a little fun doing it.
But they have a motto about the fun. It says, "No man should enjoy himself until he has brought happiness to others." Bill Shields, TV4 Eyewitness News.
This week, Boston is host to the National Convention of the Shriners, the fraternal group that has made a specialty of free hospital care for crippled and burned children. The Shriners are an offshoot of the secret brotherhood of Masons. As Christy George found out, 50,000 Shriners can keep a secret.
In case you hadn't noticed, there are 50,000 men wearing red hats and tassels in Boston this week.
Well, this convention is now underway.
But for a group that's been so much on display this week, the Shriners have somehow managed to remain mysterious. I'm trying to find out some of the secrets of the Shriners. Can you tell me one?
I don't even know what secrets we have. We are Masons who have some secrets.
Put me on the spot, don't you?
Don't have any secrets. There are no secrets in Masonry.
Give me a small secret. Give me a small Shriner secret.
Well, there isn't any really small Shriner secrets. It's down below, maybe the Masons are a little secret.
Well, there's so many things that people call secrets, but there are very few secrets in Masonry or in Shrindom. But what I do know, I won't tell you.
What is a potentate?
Potentate is the top man of his temple. Same as the President of the United States, he's the top man.
Define the word potentate for me.
Potentate, in my terminology, would be someone that is an exalted ruler.
How many potentates per temple?
One.
What is an assistant Rabban?
Well, he's the third man down from the potentate, working his way up the ladder to get to be potentate someday if all goes well, we hope.
How many imperial potentates?
One.
What is a colonel of units?
Well, I'm sort of the liaison man between the potentate and all of the units of Syria Temple.
We have all kinds of units. I suppose there's probably 30 units, 35 in our temple. Horses, scooters, clowns, everything.
How do you get to be a clown or a guy who rides a horse?
You have to volunteer. That's all very simple.
The Fez, a lot of people think that we look like Arabs in Arabia, but actually it's the ancient Arabic order of the mystic shrine. And if you take all those letters, A-A-M-O, it just spells out a Mason.
What about the Fez?
The Fez? That covers my bald head.
Is that the secret? I mean, every one of you guys is bald?
You haven't got any hair.
I know you can't reveal some of the confidential details, but can you give me some indication of what you're talking about, Scottish Rite or the other version?
Well, the Scottish Rite is the one that goes up through the 32nd degree, and sometimes you're fortunate enough to get the 33rd degree honorarily. And the other's chapter, consul, commandery, and then Knights Templar. That's the fellows that wear the admiral hats.
You can't tell us anything about the degrees, I don't suppose.
No, those are all secret degrees.
If I was an older Shriner, I could probably give you the answer, but right in, I couldn't. You'd have to ask some of these older Shriners, been in a lot more years. I've only joined since I've been out since World War II, and I come back from the war. And
No, what do you mean secrets?
Well, like Masonic, initiation rites, that kind of thing.
Oh, those are things really. It goes as far back as King Solomon's temple.
Really?
Really?
What kind of makeup and stuff do you put on when you're a clown?
Well, regular clown makeup, we buy them all different colors and so on. It's just like you making up your face in the morning. The secret of the Shriners? The philanthropy of the Shrine, all the crippled children's hospital. That's not really a secret, but that's what we do all this for, so the crippled children can walk.
I'm Christy George for the 10 o'clock news. $50 million. That's $1,000 a head. What are you going to spend your $1,000 on?
Oh, I got to eat. As soon as you give it to me, we'll discuss that.
What are you going to spend your $1,000 on?
Well, you see the hotel, I think we bought the base of it.
We're out in Cambridge in no man's land there where there's no shores around.
Coming up next on 22 Alive, we'll be coming to you live from the Shriners Hospital. Please stay with us. Welcome to 22 Alive, and we are here live at the Shriners Hospital in Springfield as the part 2 in our series of novel approaches. We're taking a look at unique area programs, and nothing could be more unique than the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children on Carew Street in Springfield, and we're up here to take a look at what they're doing. And I have with me Edwin Thorne, who is the administrator of the hospital. We're going to get an overview of just what they're doing here. Mr. Thorne, you've been here close to 60 years. What exactly does the Shriners Hospital do?
Erica, the hospital's been here close to 60 years. I've only been here 4 years.
What kind of work does the Shriners Hospital do?
The Shriners Hospital is a system of 22 hospitals, and there are 19 orthopedic specialty hospitals and 3 burns units. And you are here in Springfield, and we are one of the orthopedic pediatric hospitals.
What kind of work specifically goes on within the hospital, and how many patients might you see in a year?
In a year, we will see approximately 7,000 patients in our outpatient department. Many of these are repeat visits, of course, and then we will see approximately 500 to 600 on an admission basis. These children and the children you're seeing today are admitted to the hospital for surgery or for bracing or for prosthetics, and they typically will be here for about 2 weeks, go home, and then come back again when they need to.
How does a child find the hospital?
Child will find the hospital either through referral from their family physician, by contacting a Shriner or a Shriner finding them, or very often people will see a bumper sticker or a poster and call us.
And you provide, I think, some of the most advanced work in the field being done on the children here. What about the costs that are involved for the hospital and for the parents of the children?
Erica, I'm glad you brought that up. Our probably most unique feature is that all care in a Shriners Hospital is provided free of charge. Shriners Hospitals do not accept Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, any insurance, commercial insurance, Blue Cross or Blue Shield. All care is provided free of charge, and it is provided through the efforts of Shriners and friends who raise money to keep these hospitals going.
We should also point out that it's not limited to just children from the United States. You have children from all over the world.
Oh, there are children from all over the world, and today I think there are children here from Puerto Rico and from the island of Cyprus in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Are those children found through Shriners also, or do you have other organizations?
Yes, they are. They're all found by Shriners typically.
Great. Well, we've gotten an overview, I think, of the situation going on here now. If it's Tuesday at Shriners Hospital, it must be Grand Rounds
It's Grand
Day.
Rounds.
And we're going to come back and take you on some of the Grand Rounds going on here. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we're here as part of Grand Rounds Day at the Shriners Hospital, live, coming from you on Carew Street. We have with me right now, we have Dr. Leon Kruger, who's the Chief of Staff here at the Shriners, and Dr. Jeff Miller, who's the Chief Resident, plus many of the other physicians that work on the Grand Rounds. What is Grand Rounds, Dr. Kruger?
Twice a week we see every patient in the hospital, and Grand Rounds, the Chief Resident, Dr. Miller, presents the patient, his history, what is planned for him, what has been done, and what will be done in the future, his entire program.
Okay, can we interrupt your grand rounds today and observe what you're going to be doing?
Delighted.
Okay. What would you be doing here now?
Well, Dr. Miller's going to tell us about this young man who's just had some surgery yesterday. Jeff?
This is a 12-year-old boy who, when he was 8 years old, suffered a severe injury to his right knee, resulting in a large length discrepancy. His right leg was 7 inches shorter than the left one. Yesterday, we took him to the operating room and were able to apply a device which will enable us over the next 6 weeks to gradually lengthen his leg. After the 6-week point, we'll remove the device, put a plate in to hold the leg out at that length, and start him up walking with crutches, send him home.
His x-rays? Dr. Asdorian?
As you can see on the left, you have this leg length discrepancy. His knees are uneven, which shows you that the left is a lot longer than the right. And then on the left here, on your right, you can see this device has been applied on both his femur or thigh bone and his lower leg. As you can see, there's a cut inside both of these bones, which will enable it to be lengthened. That device is distracted.
Good. How about his motion, Jeff?
We will, our physical therapy department is going to work with him 3 times a day to ensure that he doesn't lose any range of motion about his ankle or knee, which can be a big problem.
Okay, that's the most important thing, to maintain the range of motion in the knee and ankle. Everything looks good. Let's go over and see this young lady.
This is a 14-year-old girl who was noted to have a curvature of her back when she was 12. This progressed severely so that she had a 60-degree curve of scoliosis. We evaluated her and felt she was past the point where bracing would help her, and therefore we operated on her to fuse her spine, straighten her out as much as we could, and she's now in a jacket which will hold her still until the bone is fused.
This jacket is also much more cosmetic than the older devices that were used for scoliosis.
As you can see with the t-shirt on, you can barely touch his
that one on.
If she'll stand up, I'll show you her brace from behind.
Okay.
Just do this way. It's on there, and it holds her from about here to here.
How long will she have to wear that?
Usually 6 months until the bone is solidly fused, and at that point she can come out and begins to lead a relatively normal life at that point.
All normal activity, okay.
Just about.
Her x-rays show the correction and the rod in place. This rod is something like an automobile jack to straighten the spine up. About 50% correction is the most we like to take. She's ready to go home, Jeff? Yep. Good.
Okay.
Ready for discharge. Tony?
Yeah. This is a 17-year-old male who was born with a deficiency about his left leg. When he was about 2 years old, had an amputation performed, which enabled him to walk. He previously could not walk on the deformed leg. Currently walks very well with a prosthesis on this side. He also has a family history of a disease called Charcot-Marie tooth disease, which results in some paralysis of the muscles about his foot. This necessitated an operation about his right foot in order to give him good control and a normal walking foot.
How much activity will Tony be able to do? Will he be restricted at all?
He will not run as fast as some other children, but he can tell you himself that before he had his operation, he was up running around doing quite well with it.
He can probably still beat me running, right?
Probably.
Tony, take your leg off just a minute. Do you have any problems with your stump?
Not at all.
And you're going to be able to walk with your artificial limb and your crutches?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're set to go home?
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
Let's get him out of here.
You like getting rid of patients, don't
Yes,
you?
we love to send them home. That's where they belong.
This is a 5-year-old girl with cerebral palsy who had a problem with her hips such that they were subluxating or moving out of the joint, getting ready to dislocate. We were able, by releasing some of her muscles around the hip and by cutting the bones and pointing them into the hip socket, to keep them in the hip socket.
Now, you mentioned releasing some of the muscles. How do you go about doing that?
Surgically.
You can actually just loosen them up and adjust
You
everything
divide
in
the
there?
muscle, you either lengthen it or divide it and let it fly loose completely. In cerebral palsy, it's very frequently necessary to divide the muscles to release the spasticity. How many weeks post-operatively is she, Jeff?
She's 2 weeks post-op.
And what's the plan on plaster?
4 weeks, take her out of her spica cast, start her on range of motion, x-ray her for healing, and begin her ambulating, send her home.
Get her walking. So she has 4 more weeks to go. Her x-ray is satisfactory. Okay, how about Maria?
This is a 16-year-old girl who has SLE, or systemic lupus erythematosus. Her hip joints were destroyed by the disease, however. When we first saw her, she was in a wheelchair and unable to walk at all. She had severe pain with any movement about either of her hips. We have done total joint replacements for both of her hips in an effort to enable her to walk. She is still waiting for the healing to take place on her one side, but we'll be up walking by next week.
Her x-rays, Jeff?
X-rays right here. As Dr. Asdurian will show you, the hip joints on the left thumb are completely destroyed.
The normal ball and socket, which you see in the hip joint, no longer exists. It's very irregular, and with any motion, she had severe pain as well as severe restriction of motion. On the right side, you can see the metal implant, which is the total joint replacement for the hip, which essentially replaces this ball and socket mechanism and then provides painless, almost normal range of motion of both hips.
How long is she since her second hip?
She's 2 weeks after her second hip.
Gary, what do you think about timing with the trochanteric transplant?
Well, I think you've got to decide I think the surgeon's got to decide that as to how secure it was at the time of surgery. I understand she had a lot of softening of the bone. Probably ought to wait another week or so before taking any activity.
So we thought about 3 weeks.
Okay. That metal replacement will last for the rest of your life?
I'd like to think so, but unfortunately, the state-of-the-art is not there yet. We really don't know how long these metal replacements will last. It's not the metal per se, but it's the interface between bone and metal. And what happens is that there is a loosening, and many times they have to be replaced after 5 or 10 years.
Okay, well maybe we can scoot one more patient in before we have to go to a commercial break.
Okay. Why don't we show the youngster over here, Jeff?
Okay.
Got the youngest member, I think, of the unit in here.
This is a 16-month-old who was born with a condition called syndactyly, which is otherwise known as webbing of his fingers. He had that on this hand here, which now is pretty much a normal hand. You can see the fingers are widely spaced and completely apart. Before his surgery, come on up there, this is what he had right here. The two fingers were completely joined together.
And that is just simply, all you do is separate them in surgery, and the child will have all mobility in the fingers.
In this situation where the bones aren't joined together.
Sounds simple, doesn't it?
It sounds relatively simple compared to what you've been showing me so far.
It's really a complex operation, and the plastic aspect of it, to get appropriate incisions and appropriate coverage of the skin in the defect, makes it rather complex. But as you can see from his left hand, he's already had successful separation of those two fingers.
Now, it won't make any difference the fact that the child will be growing and the skin will be growing with
The sooner you do them, the younger you do them, the better they are.
The better off they are.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a break here and come back and show you some more of the activities that go around in the Shriners. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and we've been here live at the Shriners Hospital in Springfield for the show today, and we have a lovely child back here who is walking, who probably wouldn't have been walking if he hadn't come to the Shriners Hospital and worked with the doctors here, and also worked with Lou Eckes, who is responsible for a lot of the activities that go on for children who need replacements of their limbs. And Lou, what is your title?
I'm the Director of Prosthetics and Orthotics.
Okay, and as such, what do you do within the hospital?
Okay, prostheses are artificial limbs, and orthoses are braces. And basically in prosthetics, we're replacing something that the patient is missing. And in orthotics, we're bracing something, correcting it into a good position, adding some stability so that the patients can ambulate or carry out their activity.
Can you describe some of the work we have in front of us? We can probably scoot this over just a little bit.
Just grab this over
And you have
here.
more over there.
Yeah, I've got a lot of goodies for you today.
Show and tell for us.
Okay, basically, let me show you how it's done, how we do what we do, and that'll explain what it is that we do. Here's a cast. When we're going to make a brace for a child, we take this, this mold of the leg in the corrected position. Now, if there's some deformity at the ankle, we try to correct it right while we're taking the cast. And this is very similar to the cast that's put on for a broken limb. The difference is that it's very, very thin, and we don't put any padding inside. The reason we do it that way is so that we can get a very close mold to the patient. We then take this, we fill it with liquid plaster, and when the liquid plaster hardens, we strip the cast off the outside. And what we end up with is a solid model of the patient's leg. Now that we can work on this, and what we do is we basically sculpt the outside of this so that we can take pressures where we want to take pressures, realign the limb if necessary, and basically we're trying to make the outside of the limb, or the outside of the mold, look just like what we want the inside of the brace to look like.
How closely do you have to work with the doctors in the efforts that you do?
Very closely. We talk to the doctors about the ambulation status of the patient, prescription. We get all of our prescriptions from the physicians. We then take this mold and we pick a type of plastic depending on what we want the brace to do. Now, we have many different types of plastic. These are just some samples of some of the ones we use here in the hospital. And depending on the prescription, these plastics have all different physical qualities, durability, flexibility. We'll pick one of these types of plastic and mold this type of plastic over that cast that we have. And when we do that, we end up with something that looks like this. And you can see that this was molded over a cast very similar to this one. And it's made of one of those types of plastics.
How different is that from what might have happened from a child, say, 50 years ago?
Well, 50 years ago, this is very similar to what would have been used a long time ago. We still use metal and leather braces often today. The vast majority of what we do is in plastic, like this, but we do use these from time to time, and this is probably what the patient would have gotten back then. It's not archaic, like I said, we still do use it today. It does have some applicability, but it's much heavier and much more uncosmetic than the plastic brace is.
Now, how about this piece of work?
Well, this is a check socket. In prosthetics, when we cast the patient, we're casting what we call the patient's residual limb, the part of the leg that they have left, and Tony can tell you well about this. We then take that cast, again, modify it, sculpt the outside of it, and mold this clear plastic over it. Now, this we call a check socket. With this check socket, we put the patient inside, we have them bear weight on the socket, and we can now see through the socket all of the pressure areas and where the patient is pushing, if there's any bony prominences that are pushing up against the socket. We can make modifications in this before we go on to the final socket that the patient is going to have, which then will look something like this. Now, this is not the final leg, this is just the final socket. This particular socket has an insert in it. This is a soft foam insert. And the patient puts this insert on. This was molded right over the cast. Puts this insert on and then slips down inside their leg. And now the leg will be held on.
You can mold it in every way possible for the comfort of the child.
Right. Now, this socket, which is the definitive socket, the final socket, is made of a little different type of plastic, but basically the same process is undertaken. You can see now that we've attached it to a foot, and we have this big metal device in between. This metal device enables us to walk the patient and to change the alignment as the patient walks. The alignment from the socket to the foot is going to determine how the patient is going to walk.
How long is the process when you start from the very beginning of making the mold to the final product?
We deliver our limbs in about 3 or 4 weeks.
And how long is a child likely to wear one?
Well, it depends on their growth spurts. If we're fitting them and they decide they're going to have a growth spurt very quickly, sometimes a limb will last 4 or 5 months. Sometimes we can get as much as 2 or 3 years out of it. On adults, they last much longer than that.
How about on the child? We have some very small work that you've done here. I shouldn't say very small, but relatively small for the child who'd be using it. Can you talk a little bit about these pieces?
Sure. These 3 prostheses right here are all for the same patient. They're all made for the same patient. It's very important, Erica, when we're working with children working with children with handicaps, to get them to progress along the same developmental lines as their peers. So you want them sitting roughly at the same age that all their buddies are going to be sitting, and standing at the same age. And sometimes with their physical deficiencies, it's difficult for them to do that. So we help them along. This here is a sitting prosthesis. This is made for a little girl who was born without any leg at all on the right side, just a hip itself. And then on the left side, she has a very short above-knee residual limb. And this is her sitting prosthesis, and if you look down inside of that, you'll see that here's a space for her hip on the right side, and then there's a hole out this side right here for her little above-knee amputation to come out. And then it's got an elastic front on it that just strapped her in so that she could sit and play on the floor with her friends.
Okay.
Then when she got a little bit older, we moved over to this. This was her first standing prosthesis. You can see it's made with very, very wide, very flat feet on the bottom. That's so that it's very stable in the standing position. And again, with the hip on the right side and the little above-knee leg on the left. And she was very stable standing in this. And of course, then she's got to be able to sit also. It's no good for, can't just have them standing and never sitting. So the joints, the hip joints unlock, and now she can sit.
And then she would move up to this.
Then she got a little bit older and it was time to learn how to walk. So we moved her into her first ambulatory prostheses, and this has unlocked hip joints on both sides. And again, on the right side, just the hip, and on the left side, the little above-knee residual limb.
And this piece we have here is maybe one of the more advanced examples of your work?
Right. This is an electrical upper limb prosthesis. This is for someone who doesn't have the muscle power to power a body-powered prosthesis. Normally, the upper limb prostheses are what we call body-powered. The patients wear a harness. In fact, we have a little one down here.
Can you just give an example of how that works?
There are buttons inside this little shoulder cap here, and by the patient pushing their shoulder forward, the arm will come up. By pushing the shoulder back, the arm will go down. And then by pushing their shoulder straight up, they open up the terminal device.
And they can do almost about anything that someone with a normal arm and hand can do. It certainly increases their mobility and access.
It increases their access, it increases their prehension. What it does, this is basically a tool, and it's something that they can hold a device with, a piece of paper, a toy, whatever. It's not an approximation of a normal anatomical arm by any means, but it is a tool, and it's another device to grasp things with so that they can get away from just doing unilateral activities with their hands.
Lou, we're going to have to take a break here, but I found all of this fascinating. Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to go back to the studio for a moment, and then we're going to come back down here and finish up our show. Well, welcome back, and we're going to finish up talking to one of the patients here at the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children in Springfield. He is Todd Palmiter, and Todd, you have been in here for both surgery and fitted for a device by Lou. How have they treated you? Pretty good? And with your devices, how much mobility do you have? Can you get around a lot? What kind of sports do you find yourself involved in?
Football, baseball, basketball, soccer.
And you think they've treated you pretty well and you'd come back for more?
Yep.
And how long do you think you're going to last with the device you have now? We should point out that you have 2 artificial feet and you can get around just as well, probably better. You could beat me at just about any sport, do you think? No? Well, you can challenge me after the show's over. We want to thank you for joining us today. On tomorrow's show, we're going to continue our series on novel approaches, taking a look at unique area programs, by taking a look at a program called Safeguard. Join us tomorrow at 10 to find out more about it. Thanks.
These toys should not be alone. This ward could easily be filled. These beds are at the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children in Springfield. They are here for children who need the help and support that is available at Shriners free of charge. If you know the parents or relatives of a crippled child, tell them to call 1-800-237-5055. The services are free, and so is the call.
Most burns to young children are caused by hot liquids. Don't give your child the 3rd degree. Hot liquids can burn like fire.